Hey guys, it's Bryanna with Pick'em Pros, and you're watching episode 4 of my sports journey. I had the incredible pleasure of sitting down with Brandon Wood. I hope you enjoy.
Pick 'em like a pro, global trying ball, talk a pick and roll. We gon' up the score, touchdown, this is not field goal. We the winning team, champions when you walk through the halls. You can place your bet with us, cause you know we gon' win them all. I pick 'em like a pro, global trying ball, talk a pick and roll. We gon' up the score, touchdown, this is not field goal. We the winning team, champions when you walk through the halls. You can place your bet with us, cause you know we gon' win them all. Yeah, this is a major play. We do it big in the
What was the transition for you from one college to another college?
Going from Valpo to Michigan State, I was finishing up my college career. I had an option for a fifth year because I had medical redshirt in my first year. So I had some options. So following my second season at Valpo, I entered my name into the NBA draft. So while my name was in the draft, my parents and my family and we got introduced to the fifth year transfer rule. So I could either keep my name in the draft and just see what happens, which I pretty much knew wasn't the case. I just wanted to get the feedback and kind of just see what the teams had to say.
And then kind of piggybacking off what you said earlier, what was the most memorable moment you had while you played in college?
I had 30 points at North Carolina at the Dean Smith Center. So at that point, I was like the only underclassman to score 30 points at North Carolina. So, and followed that up with going to Michigan State and playing at the Breslin Center, having 24 points against Michigan State and kind of like back-to-back games. So that was a great start to that season. And then Michigan State just, that season was, I reflect back and it was like playing at that level, you have to be so locked in and so focused. And so it's like that year just went by so fast, now that I look back at it. But that year, first game of the college basketball season, on November 11th, 2011, 11-11-11, we played in San Diego on an aircraft carrier against North Carolina for my second time. Magic Johnson, our honorary captain, James Worthy, their honorary captain, President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama sitting on the sideline, getting to meet them before the game, and just playing on a game on top of an aircraft carrier. That was, it's kind of referred to as like the greatest venue college basketball game ever, and just to start the season playing in that game, just being able to tour the aircraft carrier, meet the people who live on there, get that entire experience. That was definitely a memorable moment, and then leaving that game and going to play at Madison Square Garden against Duke, in the game where Coach K ended up becoming the winningest all-time coach, and having a chance to, play in the Garden against, Seth Curry, Austin Rivers, getting a brief moment to talk to Coach K after the game. Coming out the tunnel of that game, first person I see is Spike Lee, Carmelo and Chris Paul sitting directly across from us. Just that atmosphere at the Garden was everything that you ever could imagine, So I've had some great moments in my college career, and it's always enjoyable to reflect on those.
What's one thing or something a coach has done in college that kind of stuck with you until now?
Playing under Homer Drew and Bryce Drew, just their family tradition at Valpo, and just how I remember I was speaking on this not too long ago. I remember when Coach Homer and Coach Bryce came to visit me at my JUCO before, it was like my first open gym there. So before the season even began, they had recruited me a little bit out of high school, but once they found out that I was transferring, they were the first school pretty much the first and only school that came and recruited me because I just felt so comfortable with them that I committed right away. So just the presence that they had, when they were talking to me and sharing with me the situation and the possibilities of what it could be, and just their just the energy that they hold. They're very spiritual people. So just the eye contact and the how they listened to me. How they were really like present and in tune with me. Similar with Coach Izzo and the coaching staff. Just the we know them as coaches, and how successful they are in their coaching and on the court and with preparing their team, but when you play for them, it's just so much more than that, just the like the father-son dynamic, just the how much they really care for us and our families, and they go out of their way to help us and be there for us, and just offer that high of level of guidance and advice and perspective, and not just look at us like we're just here to hoop, so one moment that sticks out to me that my sister and I were just speaking on my visit to go visit there before I committed, and I think this kind of just speaks to Coach Izzo's like just his care and his involvement of embracing your family, so we were at dinner, had a dinner with the coaches, and obviously my mom, my dad, my sister was there. We have the dinner, and then we leave and go tour the facilities, and we're going through the facilities, and me being a player, obviously I'm in awe, I'm like kind of shocked that I'm even getting this opportunity. I'm like, I haven't committed yet, but it's like this is a dream come true. I never would have imagined being a Spartan, so I'm like pretty much already committed and wooed, before I committed, and kind of my parents the same, just their son having the opportunity to play at this level, a program led by Coach Izzo, all the players that came through this program that, that I watched growing up, that I'm sure my parents watched growing up, for their son to have the opportunity. Definitely probably a dream come true for them as well. But it came time for my sister's opinion to come out, so my sister shared with me that Coach Izzo, we're in the locker room, and Coach Izzo kind of pulls her to the side, and he was like, I guess he was like, he kind of felt the vibe. He was like, man, I see that you the one that I'm gonna have to convince, because she's kind of, and it gives me chills just sharing that. I've never shared this before, but he kind of like pulled her to the side and like, I can feel you, kind of like you're not really giving me too much energy, like I feel like you're the one that I'm gonna have to convince that we want your brother to come here and play. And she like, yeah, I kind of, I like the situation. The visit's been good. You guys are, everything you guys are sharing, kind of sounds to be going in our favor. But she kind of expressed to him, how she, enjoyed the time, and, thinks it'd be a great opportunity. So that's a cool story that me and her joke about that I've never shared in any interview. So, I think that just speaks to just Coach Izzo and just his how aware he is and how in tune he is, and how he's really taken into consideration not only us as players but our family as well.
What was the biggest adjustment you had when you moved overseas, and was there any cultural differences that you kind of embraced?
Embrace all the cultural differences. That's one thing I've my wife and I and my family, as they have journeyed along with me, always, knew that we were here more than just playing basketball, and just being an athlete and making a living, So, I've lived in, probably 15, 16 countries now. I've lived on every continent, so that's one thing that I've always done. I think it's just a testament to my upbringing, and just my parents, pouring into us more than just through sports, so just having that, that perspective, just to, know that I'm more than an athlete, because my parents kind of established me as that. So just going into these countries and, like you said, immersing myself in the different cultures, meeting people, just really being present, and being in the moment.
Mhm.
It kind of just shows you how we're pretty much all the same,
Yeah.
despite our upbringings and what we come from and how we've been taught and how we've been conditioned and what we believe and our morals and just how we, approach life. It just shows you like we're all pretty much the same person in a different experience. So just, allowing that to just pour in more and more empathy, treating your neighbor like they're us. It's
Mhm.
like we're all the same. So like it kind of like gave me a chance to like I don't really have much judgment in me. I don't really have much criticism, critical beliefs or oppositions or all that. I really don't have none of that in me, like due to my upbringing, but also due to my experience and just my immersion with different people and different ways of life, different religions, different walks of life. It's all one and the same to me. We
Mhm.
all kind of on the same journey, the same spirit to me. So definitely grateful for that. And don't take that for granted.
So how is international basketball different from United States basketball?
First off, just different rules.
Mhm.
The comparing like overseas to like NBA, like the 3 second rule is a big difference. Just not able to be in the paint for longer than 3 seconds in the NBA. Where overseas it's like pretty much like college and high school. To where you can
Mhm.
just kind of camp out in the paint. It's tougher to score. Tougher to get into the lane. I would say it's more physical. The NBA. I think they're kind of more catered to entertainment, and
Mhm.
offense, and so it's kind of like you could say it's kind of taken away from the. I mean, I don't want to feel like a old head, a poser, but it's kind of taken away from like the traditional brand of the game that I grew up on, generation before me grew up on, so I would say it's like a tougher, more physical game. The 3 second rule is definitely a big difference, to where when I played in the G League, it was so easy to score. So like I've never scored that easy. I'm a pretty high level scorer, but just I've never had that many layups, just wide open layups in the half court. So that's definitely a big difference.
And what has been your favorite place to play in general, like anywhere that you've played?
I get that question a lot,
Mhm.
and I would say I can say each place for their own reason. But for me, just I've truly been in it for the love of the game. So every place I've played at, it's been like the top league in that country.
Mhm.
It's been very, to me, high level basketball. I've respected the players as individuals, and then just the teams and how good the teams are, just the level of play. But some places that stick out, playing in Italy, that's a pretty good high level. Living in Florence, Italy, and playing for the team in Florence, Italy, that was a special experience. Just traveling through the city every day to go to weights. Going past, like the Michelangelo statue just to get to practice every day. Going up the mountain, seeing the statue, going down the halfway the mountain to go to my gym to lift weights with my team. Just moments like that are special for sure. Again, I could go through every country, but also I would say playing and living in Morocco,
Mm.
living in Africa, having that opportunity to experience the African cultures, living in Morocco, which is an Arab, Muslim based African country, and then traveling to Nigeria and Angola, which are, African spirituality, Christian, just a more of a
Yeah.
mixture of, different ways of life and having that experience, and then living in Australia, getting
Mm.
that experience. And now being in Asia, and now I'm immersing myself in the Asian cultures, the Chinese culture, and just grateful for all these experiences. Just the game taking me to these experiences, and being able to actually live in these places and not just travel and visit. So it's just it's truly important to me as a being, as a man, as a son, as a partner, as a friend, and just being that cultured and that well versed. That's probably outside of my upbringing and the foundation my parents laid, and my the people I was kind of raised by laid for me. That's definitely the reason, and that's kind of like the spirit that I'm in now, that I hold. Just the joy, the happiness, the security, just the confidence, like that being traveled and living in those places, and really, like I said, being in the moment, and knowing that I'm more than an athlete. That's the spirit that you see and that you feel, and that I am grateful for.
So after basketball, do you have any plans beyond that, like coming back to the US maybe, or just staying where you are, moving to a different country, or anything?
No plans, a lot of visions, a lot of imagining. I've positioned myself to have a pretty smooth transition when I do decide to stop playing. I've put in a lot of work off the court. I've managed my own self as a brand, through my own LLC, through my own nonprofit organization. So I've really networked. I've learned and grown and evolved, into more than just an athlete, and being a businessman, and being a entrepreneur, So, and I've poured into my other passions as well, and they've developed into other potential careers for myself, So, and I have my degrees, So I have a lot of options, for when I do make that decision. I know I love to serve. That's the basis of all I do, is just to serve. Whether it's at a nonprofit level, or just offering advice on a one-on-one engagement when I get off of here and just come across someone. So I kind of understand the range, and I embrace that. So I know I want to serve, and at a nonprofit level, all over the world, So I want to travel. Obviously, I've been traveling all my life, so I know it'll be important to continue to travel. So like I said, I want to serve. I'm a certified yoga instructor, so yoga is a big part of my life, So I definitely want to teach yoga, and travel and teach yoga as well. So I look forward to that. I enjoy music. That's been a new passion of mine, of being a musician, an artist. So I look forward to just doing that, as a form of expression, and just seeing kind of what happens. So definitely excited about that. I'm in the spirit of not limiting myself to one passion, but finding how many different spaces I can involve myself in, where I can grow. I think that's what's important for us, and I don't really got much advice for my peers. My vision and my concern is for the youth, the upcoming generations, So I definitely want to give back and be involved around the children, young boys and young girls, and just encourage them to be themselves, to continue to learn themselves, to not limit themselves.
What's the piece of advice you would give to a basketball player on his come up or just any person in general?
Be yourself, regardless of where you're at in that journey. I think we're all destined to grow. So I would encourage people to find out how you can grow. Like what you need to grow, whether it's reading or watching videos or networking and putting yourself in environments to get a little uncomfortable and and be in the moment. I know we all have our different experiences as far as our upbringing and what we've been through with our families and all that, which is important. That's who we are. It's who we come from. But it's important to take it a step further and get to know your parents a little deeper. Understand their upbringings and where they came from, and then if you can and you're fortunate enough, go to your grandparents, and understand what they come from and what they've been through, and we're a product of that, those generational patterns and just what they've been through. We're a product of that in its entirety, so you can learn a lot about yourself just really understanding and being curious of what your parents have been through and your grandparents and great grandparents have been through. So I think that's very important. So be yourself, regardless of where you're at in that journey. Find different ways to grow. It's good to be content in a way, definitely contentment and is a part of the journey, once you kind of fall into your flow, but I think it's our duty to take our families to new levels, into new spaces. And one day you have children, you'll be able to take away what your parents, not speaking on you and specifically, but us, I'll be able to share, what I can take away from what my parents wish they could have did different, and our parents didn't always. A lot of them, maybe didn't have that understanding to go to that depth, So it's on us to take that next step, So that's not always easy by any means, It could be very difficult, and it can challenge who we are, but I think that's kind of what we're here to do. I think it's just important to be ourselves, be in the moment, to serve, to give back as often as we can. Every moment that you have to give back, be disciplined and be patient to give back in those moments, and understand that the importance of those moments and how they pour into you as a young woman or a young man.
Earlier, you said that you didn't want to be a coach. Is there any reason why you wouldn't want to be a coach?
Again, this answer is like me specific, speaking for myself. I know a lot of my peers go into coaching, but I'm very secure in this vision I have in this decision that I've pretty much made. So for me, like I said, I've been playing basketball and been fully invested into the game for as long as I can remember, since the ball has been in my hand. And just like as you go from level to level, from like high school to college to pro, just the preparation, just how how committed you have to be to the preparation, and just the for me as a player, it's pretty much been like I've been prepared. I prepare, like I do the film, I do the studying, but like for me, it's just been like pretty much all off, like for the love, and it's just been like off a feel, and it's just been like my development has been like very organic, to where like to go into a next career, a next space of my life. I don't think I would want to be more like I wouldn't want to put more time into like, because being a coach, you have to be, it's so much more time you have to put into preparing, a team for playing, So
Mhm.
I don't think that I would want to go into, after being this committed and this invested into the game. Not that I wouldn't love it the same, and the love won't continue to grow even once I finish playing. But for me personally, I don't think I would want to go into a space to where I have to be more committed to the game, even more invested into the game, focus even more on the preparation, especially from a player that's really like, my preparation has been just off of like, like I said, like just it's been very indirect and unintentional. It's just been off like I have a good feel in general, and that feel transitions to the game. So for me, like I said, like being a coach is such a commitment. It's, you're not only preparing the game, but, not that I don't think I could do it at a high level,
Mhm.
but you're managing, depending on which level you're at, you're managing the kids as young men or young women. Not that I won't continue to do that as well.
Mhm.
But for me personally, like I've been so committed to the game, so invested in preparing for the game. I just don't think my next endeavor, I would want to have to do that. I have to put more time in, like off the court, outside the court. It wouldn't be of like me lifting weights and like putting up shots and doing ball handling drills. It'd just be me preparing, like, because I'm very like detail
Mhm.
oriented and very like, committed. So it's like I know I'd be like putting in hours and hours and hours, like in my office watching film. I never really been like a person that really watched film on his
Mhm.
own, so I don't think I'd want to do all of that. So probably just like just like that's definitely like a personal thing. Just like I've been around the game so long. If I want to stay
Mhm.
around the game, I'd rather be like going to player development rather than a head coach. I'd rather go into upper level management rather than both of those. So I think just with my experience and just being able to manage and manage at a greater level, rather than just
Mhm.
at a team, I think I'd want to like oversee, a whole organization. I think not that that wouldn't be probably more time than being a coach, but I think that's just what I'd prefer.
All right. And what league best prepares you to play at the highest level for you?
I would say it's like a combination of each of the levels,
Mhm.
um, high school, is obviously a different style of play and different level than college. And then college, definitely like a different approach, as far as preparation and like, you're pretty much under, you're pretty much, you pretty much have to go to film study. You have to. It's like a part of your routine, your schedule. Like you're under.
Mhm.
Um, it's part of like I would say that's part of like the student part of being a student athlete. It's like a student part of being, a college athlete.
Mhm.
So, and then like becoming a professional, it's like, it like really shows you and tests you like how disciplined are you? Are you able
Mhm.
to manage your own schedule? Are you able to manage the basketball with life? And just
Yeah.
uh, some people have families and children and businesses. It's just more freedom. So it's like are you able to balance that freedom to where in college you don't really got too much freedom.
Mhm.
It's pretty much everything set in stone. So I think in high school kind of the same as college, just like kind of
Mhm.
at a lower level. So I think each of those three levels kind of like complement each other, you know, and then um, and even the style of plays, you know, just
Right.
college being, you know, more like team oriented, like team flow, like system oriented, you know. High school kind of being the same, you know, just a lower level. And then like becoming a professional to where it's like, you know, more matchup specific, you know, more like, you know, there's kind of like, you know, you have like your go-to players, you know, not that you don't have those at each level, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
you have like your more solidified roles, you know, at like a
Yeah.
level where you're making a living, you know, like people are getting paid to play defense and only play defense. You know, people are
Mm-hmm.
getting paid to only shoot 3-point shots, you know, people are getting paid to lead and manage the whole team, you know. So I think like um, each of the levels kind of complement themselves, and then like once you become a pro and like you know, there's obviously different leagues around the world, you know, like playing overseas, playing in the G League, playing now one league that's kind of becoming more and more prevalent as far as like the style of play, how it relates to the NBA, is the NBL in Australia. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
I think you know a lot of players just based on the style of play, the approach as far as like aesthetically and like business wise and entertainment wise, how the Australian league approaches it. A lot of players are, a lot of NBA players are going there to play, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
younger players are going to Australia to play to prepare themselves for the NBA. So
Right.
I think all of the leagues and levels kind of like have their own, you know, things you can take away that kind of, you know, allow you to pour into yourself and develop in different ways for that, you know, that ultimate dream of being in the NBA if that's your
Mm-hmm.
dream. So, you know, like we said earlier, you know, just playing overseas, a lot of those rules and way styles of plays are different, you know. So
Yeah.
playing overseas, you know, you can become maybe a little tougher, you know, and in some regards to where that will translate to the NBA to where you're playing in a way to where you're, you know, getting to the free throw line more, you know, and not
Mm-hmm.
worried about the touchy fouls, you know, and not really
Mm-hmm.
thinking about that, you know, and you know, going overseas and not really being able to communicate with the referees, and then you don't have to. There's not those confrontations like in the NBA to where maybe you get the opportunity. You're not really emotionally drawn to the
Mm-hmm.
referees, you know. So I think it's just subtle differences that complement each other, you know, and you know, but I don't think there's you know, one way, you know, but you know, for someone like myself who has had like so many different diverse experiences, whether it's playing in 15 different countries on
Mm-hmm.
all the different continents and playing overseas, and I played in the G League as well, you know, so I've been in a NBA organization, you know, so I know the differences in the travel and the
Mm-hmm.
living and the lifestyle, you know, and just the different pressures that come with it, you know, and just you know the dynamics of like you know family and friends and those challenges that could arise being in the NBA to where when you're overseas, it's like you kind of have like a built-in barrier, you know, that you know you don't have to experience a lot of those things that don't go in our favor in some instances. So you know, I think as a whole, like each level, each league can kind of complement and supplement what the other ones don't have or the differences, you know, to where like you could like, you know, we seeing more and more players on men and women's side who, you know, have had long careers overseas. And then after 10 years, they get an opportunity in the WNBA, in the NBA, you know, so, you know, it's kind of just your approach, you know, and just
Mm-hmm.
how, you know, how you intake those different experiences, how you
Right.
perceive them, you know, and just,
Mm-hmm.
Just how the openness that you have as a not only as an athlete, but as a young man or a young woman.
Right. Who do you think the GOAT in basketball is, in your opinion?
So, in my opinion, I'm glad I was of age to be able to watch Jordan. So for me, I would say Michael Jordan. But as I got a little older and like my generation, I would say like my GOAT, I would have to say Kobe Bryant. That's been my favorite player, just being able to follow his whole career. I didn't get to follow Jordan's whole career, but I do remember watching Jordan and being aware and like kind of like being of age to be able to enjoy that experience of watching Michael Jordan. So that definitely grateful for that, but being able to follow Kobe's journey and from number 8 to number 24, from the mini fro that I used to have myself because of him to the low cut Kobe, just being able to be along that entire journey, and just his approach, to the game, and his approach to life and his accountability that he held of himself on the court and off the court, just going through moments where, things could have went very bad, not that they didn't go bad, but in those moments he took public accountability, and allowed him to grow as a man and to pour into his wife at another level, So just to see him as the player, to see him as a man and go through a tough, trying time, and to see a woman who didn't leave their man in that tough time and gave him the space to be a man of where a lot of us come from and to grow through that and to evolve through that and to see where their marriage went and where their family went. I think that's something that I respect, him as a man and her as a woman, especially these days, when, everybody's looking for every reason to leave each other, where it's like they looked and she looked for the good in him and seen the good in him, so I think that's a situation and an experience that maybe we can revisit publicly and see kind of how they approached that and grew from that, so Kobe, my GOAT. I know that was a little tangent, but I think that's been on my spirit based on another video that I've recently seen. But yeah, Kobe as the athlete, as the man, as the father, as the leader, I would definitely say he's my GOAT. But even now, having seen LeBron's career, and just the expectations that was put on LeBron, and just to see his growth and development, specifically as an athlete, because there were some questions of him as an athlete and as a closer, and how clutch is he, and and like I remember like being like, dang, he really overcame those questions, and now he's like just completely soared past those questions, so I feel like I could say all of them are GOATs, obviously, I don't try not to speak in cliches, but for me, Kobe, that's my GOAT.
And that is all the questions that we have for you. So I want to say thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you for having me. And best wishes, towards this journey you're on, and everything you have on your horizon. Definitely look forward to following that now that we're connected, and and anything I could do to help and open up my network and resources for you, I'm here for you in that regard as well.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Tavares Jordan.
Yeah. I pick 'em like a program. Globetron ball, talking pick and roll. We gon' up the score, touchdown, this is not field goal. We the winning team champions when you walk through the halls. You can place your bet with us, cause you know we gon' win them all. I pick them like a pro, Globetron ball, talking pick and roll. We gon' up the score, touchdown, this is not field goal.